Hi, welcome everybody. My name is Brian Leisham, and I'm here to talk to you today about language development. Here are the guiding questions for this mini lecture, and that is, first one, what are the four components of language, and how does each of these components develop over a child's first 5 years? And lastly, how does language input, which is, the clinical term for really what babies hear from their parents or siblings, how does language input affect a child's development? Okay, well, let's start with the four components of language. Language can be broken down to phonology, semantics, pragmatics, and grammar. We're going to go through each one of these slowly with a timeline of a child's development. The first one, phonology, has to do with speech sounds. It's really just the shapes your mouth makes and your tongue, teeth, to create the sounds of speech. And this motor skill has to be obviously learned from baby on and perfected. So the phonology timeline from birth to 5 starts with babies at birth making oral sounds, getting used to the shape and the movement of their own mouth. For example, crying or sometimes laughing would be an oral sound. About 2 months in, babies will start cooing. And cooing is generally just your vowel sounds, open sounds, ooh and ee and ah. And in about 4 months, that cooing evolves into babbling. The difference being that babbling starts with a consonant, a hard sound, and then ends with a vowel. It's a combo of the two, like these. And really at this age, 4 months, and from here on, babies can understand more language than they can physically say. And so they are still getting used to these motor skills, which is why we have cooing and babbling. Hey, just as a musical side note, we can hear someone cooing and babbling. Here's an example of cooing. This is Philip Phillips, American Idol winner. Watch him now evolve from cooing to babbling in the blink of an eye. You can hear the consonants starting the sounds and not just open vowel sounds here in this sample. Now, obviously, I'm just kidding with that he's a grown man, and singing is a lot different than, obviously, speaking. But, just having fun. I thought we'd have a little music timeout. After babbling, about 8 to 12 months in, we shift to canonical babbling, which is, could be described, I guess, as repetition. That there are clear multi-syllables, baba, dada, and so on. And that the child keeps repeating these phrases again and again. They're not a one-off. They come around. Sometimes this is referred to as jargon because they seem like real words, and sometimes almost words are infused with random sounds so that we're a near sentence, but not really. About 1 to 2 years, 12 to 24 months, children go through what we'd call a phonological simplification. They take big words or big sounds and simplify them. One thing they do first is to repeat the first consonant or vowel for all syllables. So, for example, if a child is trying to say TV, they might just use the first one, TT, again. And the other thing they do is delete unstressed syllables, which is why words like banana, or the stress is on the nana, the BA gets dropped to nana. 24 to 30 months, children will start picking up the sense of rhyme and perfect their intonation. And then 3 to 5 years along, pronunciation improves and phonics in general improve. The second component of speech is semantics. And semantic development relates to vocabulary, content, meaning. It's the message we want to send. It's how we package our information in our brains and send it to somebody else. For example, the word carrot sends from the sender to the receiver this root vegetable and bowling pin. So semantics develop at birth in this way. Language comprehension develops before language production, meaning that a baby can start to understand semantic meaning before its mouth can produce it. So a mom might say bottle to a baby, and a baby will understand that word and what comes along with that word, what that word signifies. However, there's about a 5-month lag between understanding and production. And so maybe 5 months before a baby can respond baba or ba. Also, when it comes to semantics, there's an innate preference to the mother's voice, meaning babies will comprehend and be more focused on a mother's voice than others. At about 12 to 18 months, we call this the holophrastic stage, meaning that children are issuing 1 or 2 word utterances, but they convey so much more meaning. An example being the word milk. If a child says milk, it could mean something like, there is a cat drinking milk, or I spilled my milk, or I really want some milk, or I don't like milk. The multiple meanings could come from this word, but it's expressed through a 1-word utterance. At about 18 to 24 months, semantic development increases dramatically. The children go through a big vocabulary spurt, and it mostly is nouns, your objects, and your verbs, your actions. By 2 to 3 years, a child can use and understand why questions. They learn and perfect spatial terms, in, on, under, through. And also, as every parent knows, they begin to coin words of their own to fill in gaps. There are as many examples as there are children in the world. I'll just give you one of my favorites, my baby sister, Laster time. She started using Laster time to signify in the past, but not today, as her made-up coined word. At about 3 to 4 years, children have mastered their colors and shapes and family words. They start using when and how questions, and they can build semantic relationships between multiple sentences. And they grasp the notion of cause and effect sentences, causality, and contrasting sentences. And so they are building their thoughts and their meanings from one idea to the next and linking them. And at about that 4 to 5 year range, 48 to 60 months, a child has perfected letter names, sounds, numbers, and begins to grasp similes and metaphors, and the use on a basic level of figurative language. The third component of language development is what we call pragmatics, which relates to our rules for appropriate and effective communication. This is more on the element of social rules, I guess, that we have different language for greeting people or demanding from people or questioning, that we develop an understanding of audience and purpose, and that we take turns speaking or stay on topic or ask questions. I wonder, or have you? Pragmatics at birth mean joint attention. Babies are capable of sharing attention on something with another person, and they begin turn-taking activities. At about 1 to 2 years, children can focus on a topic and can start taking turns in conversation, passing a conversation back and forth. And in the 3 to 5 year range, children master intent. And what I mean by intent is that they can understand the meaning of a sentence or of a statement even if the words aren't explicit. Meaning what you meant even if you didn't say it exactly. Also, They pick up turnabout skills. It means passing a conversation or a topic off to another person. Grandpa, what do you think about this? Those skills of facilitating conversation get better and better, especially in the 3 to 5 year range. The fourth and final component of language development is grammatical development. And grammar here is the understanding of syntax and morphology. Syntax meaning the rules of arrangement in our sentences, nouns, verbs, adjectives, conjunctions, and morphology meaning how we change and shift language to fit tense, voice, how we add on prefixes, suffixes, how the case changes when we talk. Those are what we call morphemes, adding and shifting words to fit the time, place, content. Grammatical development really starts at about 12 to 30 months with telegraphic speech, meaning two-word combos. And over 80% of speech fits into about 11 basic semantic relationships. I'm going to show you a few of those. Attributive semantic relationship would attribute some quality to an object or person, a big ball. An agent-action relationship talks about the person or the object and what actions associated with it. Here's an action object, catch ball. A nominative, this ball, you are declaring which one. A recurrence, more ball. A non-existence, all gone ball. A possessive, an agent location, ball, floor. Next, in about 3 to 5 years, children will start with simple sentences of 3 to 5 words that follow correct syntax. They follow the rules of your standard sentence. And those sentences grow towards the 5-year mark into complex grammatical structures. They add on those morphemes. They can change between case, they can change between voice, active and passive voice. Now, when it comes to syntax development, there are different schools of thought, but generally two major ones. The first is the nativist theory, which is really spearheaded by Noam Chomsky. It's been the conventional thought in language development for about 50 years. And his theory was that language development is distinctly human, and that we are born with what he called the language acquisition device. That there was almost like a software in our brain that was triggered at birth that made us capable of acquiring language very quickly. Almost like the fact that babies are born with, the knowledge to listen to their mother, or the knowledge to nurse. That the same software exists in a child's brain that triggers language acquisition. Now, counter to the nativist is the empiricist, and they felt that there was nothing significant in the brain. There was no boot up software that started language learning, that it was from language input only, that babies only learn language from what they heard around them. And part of this language they hear is child-directed speech. We'll get back to that in just a moment. When it comes to language development by the sex, females have a clear advantage over males. In the 16 to 22 month range, females show much more spontaneous speech production than males. Now, the evidence is clear that there's a difference, but the cause is not so much. One possible theory is that mothers feel somehow more comfortable and connected to their daughters in conversation, so they're talking a lot more to their daughters than their sons. And since practice makes perfect, females acquire language much more quickly through that conversation. Males, especially in the 2 to 6 year range, showed slower development and lower performance on language-related tasks. Now back to that child-directed speech. You know that better as baby talk. It's when you speak to a child with a higher pitch